YouTube fam? It's your host with the most, the face that runs the place, the champ that runs the camp is back with another video. Before we get into the meat and potato of today's video, guys, please go and show my social media pages some love at Giant Snapback on YouTube.com, Giant Snapback on Facebook.com, Johnny_Snapback on Instagram.com, and of course, Giant Snapback on Twitter.com. Go check out my first episode of my new series called Ask a Woman. It just debuted literally today at, I believe, 7 o'clock. So I'll leave the link to that in the description box below. But without further ado, this is episode 2. And I have the lovely Chardine here. Chardine, please introduce yourself to the people.
Hello. I am Chardine. I have a body care business that is called Touche. You can go follow us on Instagram at Touche Cosmetics.
So, Chardine, I have to ask, thank you, number one, for coming on. I appreciate it because I needed someone else to have as a guest because I'm really trying to learn. Like, we're not a female bashing channel here, and I know, like, we have enough channels like that. You know, shout out to Kevin Samuels. I think he does good work, but I don't agree with every single thing that he says. But I do agree with a good bit of what he says. But we don't try to degrade anyone here. Not saying that he does. It's
Right.
just I want to make that clear. We aim to learn on this channel. We try to learn why men do what they do in certain scenarios, why women do what they do in certain scenarios, in regards to men, in regards to the opposite sex, and so on and so forth. So this is a question I pose to you because this is something that I think in 2021, since the dating paradigm has shifted so much, this is something that a lot of men would like to know. At least I'm gonna speak for myself personally. I would like to know. Why does a woman want to be pursued? Or in your case, why do you want to be pursued?
For me, it's like, wouldn't you like to know that someone like thinks of you that way to like want to pursue you in that way? Right? Like, I would want somebody to like me or value me to the point where they will literally do whatever to not necessarily get my attention, but I guess to like to get my attention. Not necessarily to get my attention, but to get my attention. I guess to maintain my attention, because that's the hard part. So I guess chasing a guy chasing a woman, like you just like to know that, you know, they like you like that.
So let me ask you a question. So in other words, you want to be chased, in other words, or you believe, is it safe to say not all women, but a lot of women would like to be chased by a man?
I think women like to be pursued.
Well, what's the difference, in your opinion, what's the difference between pursuing and chasing a woman?
So to me, the term chasing just makes me like, it just sounds like if a man is chasing me, I don't want him, because right, you shouldn't be chasing me if I want you. Like, if the feeling is mutual, I shouldn't feel as if you're chasing me. I should feel like you're pursuing me.
Okay, so if that's the case, then there's a couple sayings that go a little something like this. I think I've heard this before in the barbershop. I've heard this amongst my own male or female friends. I've heard something, it goes like this. They say that the men like the chase. Do you believe that to be true?
I think some men enjoy the chase. Not all men are the same, so I do understand that. But I think some men enjoy the chase. Other men talk down on it, but the other percentage, they enjoy it for sure.
So the chase exists. So we can acknowledge that chase
Yes.
is a thing.
No, the chase exists for sure.
Okay, so that's a thing. So between a man and a woman, the chase has to happen, or is it optional?
It depends on the woman. It depends on the woman and the man. For me, I don't want to say that it's mandatory
Because
it is mandatory though.
so the chase is mandatory.
Yes, it's very
Okay,
mandatory.
and the chase from the man to the woman is mandatory,
Yes.
or is that interchangeable, meaning the woman can chase the man as well?
I don't um recommend any woman chase a man. I think that if you're interested, you definitely should show interest. Don't just like, be like trying to shrug somebody off, for whatever your reason is. I feel like if a man is pursuing you and if you are genuinely interested in him, show interest in him.
Okay.
That's what I think. I don't feel that women should chase men.
But why is that? And I'm not saying that I would want that or whatever the case is. I know there are men that would like that, and I can put some logic behind as to why, because I know that's a new thing that's coming up, as to where some women feel like some or a lot of men today want to be chased like a woman. And I've heard
I
that.
believe that.
I'm sure
I
you
believe
do.
that.
I'm sure you do.
I believe that to a certain extent. And it's like, I think that I'm very understanding, right? Like, I don't
Oh,
want to say I believe in gender roles, but I believe in gender roles.
okay.
But it's like, I think that women should show interest. I think that it's so wrong if a woman just expects a man to, like, just chase her, just cat and mouse chase her. I think that if a woman is genuinely interested in a man, I think that you should show interest. Like, I think women can take men on dates. Like, I take men on dates. If I'm interested, I'll take a man on a date.
Really?
After he's taken me on a date, though, I will never do that to a man who has not shown interest in me, though,
So how do you
consistently.
okay, so let's a few things. So you don't think a woman should chase a man or pursue? Because that I would like to say, as much as there's a difference in the syntax of those two words, down to
Hmm.
the actual literal spelling of those two words, I want
Hmm.
to say they're interchangeable. I do. It's just
Yeah, I can agree.
one has a negative connotation versus the other that doesn't. Typically, if someone's chasing you, you're running away from them, if you want to be really basic about it. And so if someone's running away from you and you're being the guy pursuing or chasing a woman, the mindset comes onto you as if she's running away from me, then she must not want to be bothered. But then again,
Right.
this is why I asked, is the chase necessary? Because the perception is, and this has happened, this has happened to me, and we know some women make a career out of this, not all, but there are some women that do this. You can pursue a woman, and that might require taking her out on a date or two. It might require a few dates. And a lot of times what might happen to some, and I've heard this happen to some, and this has happened to me, you'll set up a date. It could be a dinner date. It could be a drink date, like just catching a drink somewhere at a lounge or something like that. And y'all have a good time. Y'all might hit it off the first date, then you'll go out on the second date, which it might be a dinner date or something like that. And then like you'll just never hear from the person or her ever again, and they just ghost you. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because typically what men are told is that you want to pursue, really you want to find a wife, right? So
Yes.
dating would eventually, hopefully, will lead to you finding a wife. But
Right.
you have to take the initiative as the man, because you're the hunter, you're the provider, you're the protector, right? And look, I have no problem doing that. I don't think a lot of other men do as well. But the return on investments is very, very sketch, because there's a lot of times to where you would be into a female and you're taking her out on one or two dates, and you think that she's equally interested in you, and she's not. And so that's
Mm.
why I asked if you believe women should pursue, or I guess quote unquote chase men initially at first or not.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm
So,
asking you now. I'm sorry.
yeah. So here's honestly what I think about that, right? I think just how some men say that like women need to be more mindful of the men that they date, right? Like women need to be more mindful of just the men that they speak to, like the men that they even find attractive. It's literally the same thing for guys. Like guys need to be just like there are men that do women wrong. There are women who do men wrong. there are women who think that they are finessing a man just because you're interested in her and you want to take her out on, you want to take her to dinner. Like, some women think that, you know, they got shit going on because they were asked to dinner and a man is buying them a meal. Like, you can't feed yourself? You know, it's like, I don't think, I think that I can understand if a woman, you know, we went out to dinner and during the dinner date, you know, I found out that I don't think this is going to work. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a conversation that should be had that night. Whether it's in person, through text, or whatever, I think that's a conversation that needed to be had, because if we didn't talk about how we felt that night on our first date and we just go on a second date, or we don't even make it to a second date and then I just ghost you, that's so wrong. That is wrong for a woman to ghost a man. Let's just start there. Like, that's so wrong for a woman to ghost a man, especially after a first date. You know that a man is interested in you, and if you just aren't interested, just tell a nigga that you're just not interested.
I would like to say that, you know, if we lived in a perfect world, that would happen. And I'm pretty sure it does happen, but it's probably less than 50%
There
of
are some pretty blunt women, you know.
Yes,
There are
I agree.
some pretty blunt women.
I agree, but I also, you know, I've been told, and this is, like I said, this is just from what I've been told, what I've experienced, but mostly from what I hear from other women that I know, older or my age, or maybe even a little bit younger, like in the earlier 20s, around 25, 24. If you don't like a guy, the respect to tell that guy is not warranted because of the fact that they just, some women think that that's just part of the game. Like, this is a quote unquote game that men and women play, and you're going to have winners and you're going to have losers. The thing is, men typically lose a lot more than they win until they hit a certain status, which we won't get into that, because I think Kevin Samuels does a good job of articulating that. But for average men, for everyone that's working a 9 to 5, that has a career, that makes 50, 60, whatever, $70,000 a year, that doesn't make six figures, I should say, it is like emotional, financial warfare, to where you have to be careful as to who you give your time, your energy, and your resources to, because we know that some women make careers out of having meal tickets by different men. That's true. And then we hear these stories on Reddit. We hear them on YouTube. We see the meme post on Facebook. Like, I always say, there's a little bit of truth in what everyone says. And when it comes to jokes, they have to derive from some source of truth. Yeah. There's some truth in there. You just have to find it. But I said that to say, I want to know, and I think a lot of other men just want to know, in 2021, are women, well, I would say, are you willing? I think you would say no, but would you pursue a guy initially? Like, let's say you see a guy and you find him attractive. Would you take the initiative to talk to him? Or would you rather him approach you? Or would you wait for him to approach you, even if he does?
I'm very bold, but I'm stubborn. You know, so I actually have approached the guys. I approach guys just because that's just who I am. Like, I don't care. I am not scared of rejection. I know who I am. So if I approach a guy and a guy is not trying to fuck with me, I'm not tripping, because I know who I am. I know what I can offer. You know what I'm saying? I'm not tripping on that. Why would you not want to fuck with me? Why would I not? Like, why would I be mad about a man not wanting to talk to me? You know, like, that's not a thing for me. So I shoot my shot. If I wanted to shoot my shot, I haven't shot my shot at a lot of guys, but if I wanted to, I definitely would shoot my shot.
Well, I appreciate the honesty, but a lot of times what we hear is women don't like, or they don't know how to handle rejection, and that is probably why you, not saying that you wouldn't, but if I had to guess, that might be why you would not, or someone else, another woman would not. But this is good, because I feel as if the more we address these issues and talk about these things, the easier dating will become for everybody. But we have to take some accountability, and we have to be transparent about things. That's true. Honestly.
Now, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with a woman pursuing a man. Now, like, pursuing a man and like a woman, we see like women proposing to men these days and everything.
That's, I saw that. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. Just me being the way I am, like, the way I was raised, I probably would not feel comfortable with a woman doing that, just because it's been ingrained in me by my father. Because, you know, my father and my mother, if you didn't know, like, they were married for 22 years. And so he proposed, obviously, you know, he proposed to my mother. And so growing up with a 2-parent household like that, him coming over, getting a house, taking care of the family, it was a very strict system, into where he was the head of the household, but he led by example. So for me to follow his blueprint, what's not a part of that blueprint to have a family is to have my wife propose to me. So that's not going to happen. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But I know that there are some men that would like that. And
No, that's so
I'm like,
like,
oh, how do you feel about that? I'm not one of them, but I know some men would like that.
I just would have to ask them one question. Like, how can you feel like a man if a woman is proposing to you? Like, that doesn't make you feel less than a man. A woman is proposing. I would feel anything that I know that I'm supposed to do as a woman. If someone is coming to me, if my man is coming to me with it as if, you know, like it's his duty, I'm gonna feel like ashamed, kind of. I'm gonna be embarrassed. Like, I'm not gonna feel like I'm the woman that I thought that I was. Like, I don't understand how men could. And I guess that would explain why, like, a lot of the times when they are being proposed to, that they say no. A lot of the time.
I guess so. I mean, I haven't seen any videos like that, but like, I guess that would make sense.
Yeah.
Something I thought about, and I did want to ask you. So just to make some things, so just to recap, you think both parties, men and women, should pursue each other, but
Yes.
by default, you do believe a man should pursue a romantic relationship with the woman first, initially,
Yes.
and
Yes.
then you would reciprocate after the fact, right?
Yes.
If you're attracted to that guy.
Yes.
Okay, so we're making that clear. Okay. So why do you think men now are like really opposed to some, because there is I would say maybe a small group of men, but it's enough to be noticeable. Why do you think some men don't approach or won't take, you know, the initiative to do that?
I don't know. I think it has a lot to do with the things that they've seen growing up, or the things that they allow to influence them.
So in other words, you think that these previous traumas like hinder them from being able to approach a woman naturally, in other words.
Yes, because you want to know, um, it stems from like so many different things, I feel, with men, um, and how they react to women, how they treat women, just everything. I think it stems from so many different things. Like, a lot of men grew up seeing they grew up like in not the best 2-parent household. Like, yeah, they grew up in a 2-parent
Yeah.
household, but it wasn't the best 2-parent household. So the things that they see, or the things that they see, the things that they've seen, they think that that is what a relationship is. They think that that's what love is. They think that that's how they're supposed to treat a woman, and it's not. Nobody corrected them growing up. They never knew. They just knew what they saw and repeated it. I
All right.
think that happens a lot of the time.
So let me and maybe you might not be curious, but I think I do have to say this because I know that there's men that might look at this, and I know that me being a guy, I have some responsibility to voice this opinion. Not that I feel like this, but I know this is a thing. I was talking to a coworker today. Shout out to Vaughn. I'm not gonna say his last name, but if he looks at this brother, I shouted you out. And he's married. He has a wife. So he has a family. But before then, he was saying things such as dating, like I said, is very expensive. It can be. And so a lot of men, or I should say some, I ain't gonna say a lot because I don't know. Some men look at the approach as to, I'm not guaranteed to get a call back, or like I said, I could be ghosted. And so they feel as if the woman were to approach, it would be easier for them to do their job and follow up. Meaning, if she were to show that first initial interest, meaning, let's say, hey, you stop a dude and say, hey, how you doing, or whatever, or like just make it known like you could give them a compliment or something. It doesn't have to be as masculine as what we would do as stopping you trying to get your number, but it could be more of like, oh, hey, I like your hair, or whatever, something like that. That would give the initiative to a guy to be like, okay, I could work with this, instead of just cold approaching. And I think that is why some men are kind of against I shouldn't have to always make the first move, especially if we make eye contact and we know, for example, that you're into us, because sometimes some women just like the ego boost. They like the validation of a guy approaching them and turning them down. And it happens. You know what I'm saying? It's a totally different world for men in dating. And the reason why I said that was just because of what we're talking about. I know there's a group of men that do feel like that. I know a few of them, and I do feel for them, because it's hard. Like, for example, your dating career, if you're never successful at any point in your dating career, that will kill your ego and your confidence as a guy. And I think that will go for anybody, women as well.
Exactly.
But for a guy, it's harder, because you have to become something. You have to be something. Like, for example, you cannot just be like, quote unquote, broke and think you'll have a successful dating career or a successful relationship.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that for a second, right?
Let's talk about that.
This is what I believe. This is just me, little old me, you know? I believe that dating is not expensive, right? I believe that I'm 28. I've dated a lot of men who normal people would consider, I guess, kind of wealthy. You know, I've dated what most people would consider broke. I've dated those two. I've dated what most people would consider broke. I've dated one time, right, in my life.
Okay.
And I loved him. And I feel that women are like so like strong-minded on dating men with money these days is just because I really think it doesn't have anything to do with the money, right? But I think that they'd rather, it's like if they're gonna deal with the bullshit, they'd rather deal with the bullshit and have something being given to them in the process of going through the bullshit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's not, men don't know how to be men these days. You don't get flowers, you don't get dates, you don't get phone calls, nothing. Like, you get nothing these days, and it's just like the least you can do is have some money. You know, you're gonna be a fuck nigga anyways. The least you can do is have some money, right? I think that if men were better men, money would not be in the equation at all. Because I feel like when women realize that when you take money out of the equation, you're still going to have to deal with the person. You're still going to have to deal with the person that you decide to deal with internally. And when you realize that that person is just as shitty as he always was with the money as he is without, like, you're not going to think about the fucking money. It's really not about the money. But I think that it's like women want, like, you got to give me something. You're not giving me anything. You're giving me fucking heartaches and headaches, and you're not giving me anything. The least you can do is fucking take me on a trip. The least you can do is throw me a couple thousand, you know, every now and then, since you want to cut up and act how you want to act. Just throw me a couple dollars.
So now
I don't think it's about the money, honestly.
So now we've and I thought, because we were doing good too, we were doing really, really good. And I really thought it wasn't going to turn into a debate, but I think we've heard our first road bump. So I'm gonna have to respectfully disagree to an extent, and I have to explain why. Like I said, it goes back to what I said earlier, right? It goes back to you having to become more.
Yeah.
You have to be something, right? So if the end goal is marriage, right? That's I would like to. That's the, unless you just want to have a good time, which is fine, but I would like to say for a good majority of men, the end goal is I find a woman that I like. I find her attractive. Is she sweet? Is she caring? Can she hold me down? Can she make my house a home? These are the important things that
Are
we
you saying
think.
this for majority of men? I would say for men like you. I can't even say for majority of men because
I think there's a lot of men that can relate to what I'm saying. They might just not use the
okay,
words I'm using. So you can
okay,
include me as well, but I know some brothers are going to agree with this. So we know off top, if we're trying to have a family, we
mm-hmm.
know for a fact, in order to take care of that family, you have got to be the breadwinner. You have got to
Of
bring some
course,
money into the table. So of course, money automatically matters if you're trying to have a family. We
okay,
know a lot of women, or some women, want to be married. Some women like the marriage and not actually being the wife. But again, that marriage still requires money, right?
right,
The man still has to, and maybe even the bride herself has to have some money in order to make these arrangements. But in the society that we live in, you being a guy, you don't get any breaks for just showing up, because again, you're not useful. Like literally, like you said yourself, like if you don't have a good personality, right? The least you could do is have some money, which I know money
no,
matters.
it's like this, right? Like it's not. It's literally. I feel like guys try to make it a science, and it's literally not, right? Like let's say let's say that I'm with somebody and he doesn't have much, like financially, he doesn't have much, but he goes to fucking work every day. He goes to fucking work every day. He has a fucking plan. You know, he has a fucking plan and he's working every fucking day towards that plan. You think I'm about to not be with him because he doesn't have money, but he has a fucking
Well,
plan? You think I'm about to not be with him
well,
because
no.
of that?
What I'm answering is the fact of what you had said previously. We know as men we have to have something to bring to the table other than just ourselves,
Right.
because when things get hard financially, not emotionally, you have to be able to take care of things in that aspect, right? That require money. You want to have foresight, you want to be a good leader. Well, you have to have those characteristics to be able to persevere and make the hard decisions when they matter
Mm-hmm.
and not be emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that women can't make good decisions, but I mean, women are more emotional than men. And that typically gets in the way of certain decision making. That's all I'm saying, for what I've seen and for what I've
Okay.
experienced.
I can
In my
agree.
opinion, that's why I got to speak for myself here. But what I'm trying to also say as a guy, you can't go into the dating world thinking that I look good and I just got to show up. I don't really have to have nothing going on for myself. There are literally women that will tell you, that will say, I can't deal with a dude that works a regular 9 to 5. There's literally women that will tell you, you got to make a certain amount of money to even deal with me.
Yeah, that's
And these
true.
are things that we hear on a constant basis. We have artists, like for example, I don't know, I don't listen to the City Girls at all, but I know that they are very influential when it comes to things like this. And
Mm-hmm.
some things I've heard, there's one lyric that, and no disrespect to these girls, because they probably worked hard to get to where they've gotten to, right?
Yeah.
But I think they said something, he's got to be able to buy me a Birkin bag, which honestly, I have never probably seen a Birkin bag. It sounds expensive as hell, but it's just the fact that if that's the standard, a lot of dudes can't afford that. I know that because again, the fact that that's a standard that not just, and I'm not saying this is you, but there
Mm-hmm.
are a good bit of women that follow what these women
There
say
are.
off
No,
of
there are for
like on
sure. I
bated breath.
agree.
And so that's where we're more likely to run into a female with that mindset than let's say you. That's what, and that's the thing. It's like the deck is kind of stacked against us to where we're more likely to pull a joker than it is a queen. That's what we're saying. And because of that, the safe way to play that game is to not play. And so that's why I think some men say, look, man, if she's interested in me, I will show some interest, but she's got to reciprocate. Or even better, if she would take the initiative to give me a signal or a sign, that makes my job easier, because if that's the case, she don't have nothing to worry about. Basically, we're going to go off of what you do, not what you say. So if you say you're interested and your words, your actions match that, we will match it. But once you start getting shisty, once you start getting inconsistent, that dude's more than likely gonna do the same thing. Because nowadays we know, for to an extent, depending if we have other female friends, I have a few. We kind of know how some, not all, some women operate when it comes to dealing with multiple guys at the same time, and that's a whole nother can of
Mhm.
worms that I think I'll
It
probably do a
definitely
separate video
it
on.
it
More like,
definitely is.
my point is this though, that I think there's things that we could pull from this that we can learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Both sexes. And I think that you made a pretty good, like I said, argument for what you said. I think I've done the same thing. But we need to let the people decide in the comment section, because I'm pretty sure they will. You know, I hope that they do for the most part. Now, I don't want to have this drag out. I'm looking at my clock, and we've been on this for a good little minute. I love talking to you. You've been a great guest. But if you had to send the people home with something, like the guys per se, because like I said, this really, I'm asking a woman this. What would you say to guys now that are against pursuing, or that want to be pursued, or they don't know how? Like, what would you tell these men, even the younger guys as well? Because they say you're 28. So, you know, we are in a different generation now. The next generation is like right behind us.
Yeah. I'll tell them, don't be scared to shoot your shot. The worst a woman can say is no, and if she says no, just respect it. You know, I'd say to hold yourself to the standard that you'd want someone to treat. Hold yourself and your friends to the same standard that you'd want the guy that your daughter is dating. That's what I say.
Okay.
And women too, though. I hate that, because just as, you know, men and women do the same thing. I think that people try to make it seem so much more awful because it's a man, but women do this. Women do the same thing, man. I'm not gonna sit here and hold you. Women do the same thing. Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, thank you, Chardine. You've been a great guest. I really appreciate it. I'm pretty sure they do as well. Guys, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. You know, I'll be back in the week, next week, whenever I can, with another video. Y'all have a good one.